How do you know what your true identity is? Keep watching. This is Life Mastery Gym. I'm Damon and I teach people just like you cutting-edge NLP processes and techniques so that you can master your life and take charge of your destiny. So if that sounds good, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. Defining personal identity. This is probably the most important thing you could possibly do in your life. So I'm not gonna be able to cover everything in this video, but there are more videos that I've done on this topic, so I will link them here. And of course, I've done a lot more training on this topic, but for this video, I'm going to give you the broad strokes and the understandings that are really, really important to get down about you and your identity. So here we go. The problem, I think, where most of the confusion comes in about personal identity and defining the personal identity is there's so much philosophy out there about personal identity. And I spent years, more so in my early 20s, really delving into this philosophy because I love philosophy and it was something I indulged in quite a bit. But as much as I got some wise words or words of wisdom from some incredible thinkers, I found that it didn't help a whole lot in understanding myself and understanding the world around me and making progress, making changes in my life that could really benefit me. And that's when I turned to NLP, and neuro-linguistic programming opened a whole nother way of looking at personal identity, especially through Steve Andreas' self-concept model. So I think the first important thing to do is to really understand what is your personal identity, and that's the place that you would want to start. And like I said, this can be really confusing for a lot of people because you hear all these different things and you can ask that question, who am I, endlessly and get endless answers to it. So what NLP does is the approach that we take is we take more of a structural approach to it rather than a content-based approach to it. So philosophy is often answering questions of why. And what NLP likes to do is, instead of personifying NLP, in NLP what we like to do is ask the how question. How is this even happening? So how is it we have a felt sense of identity? How is it we have just that felt sense of self that for some people it seems like they have great identities, and for other people they doubt their identity, they doubt themselves. So what is that difference as well? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later, but let's really talk about what is your personal identity. Your personal identity is basically who you believe yourself to be, or what you believe yourself to be. Your personal identity is this huge generalization we make about ourselves. Now, this is pretty much what we do with almost anything, especially anything that we give sort of an identity to. And I want to use an analogy that I think will make this a little more clear. So when we think of a city, we often will talk about the identity of the city or the personality of the city. I'm going to use one of my favorite cities that I've been to, Hanoi, Vietnam, as an example. And you could use this with any city. I like that city a lot because of the concept that I have of it. I've been there before. I knew it existed before I went to it. And I had an idea about what Hanoi was like before I went. And then, of course, when I got there, my idea about it, I would say that it changed, but more importantly, it grew because now I had an actual experience of it. And that's not the same experience that everyone else has. It's certainly not the same experience that people have who have lived there all their lives. It's not the same experience of someone else who comes from a different culture, speaks a different language, and visits Hanoi. We all walk away with a different concept of Hanoi or whatever city that you're thinking of. The important thing to understand, though, is we have a concept of it. Does the city actually exist? Well, yes, it does. You can show up and you can see it. But the idea that we give it a name called Hanoi, that it has certain characteristics, these are all generalizations we make about that city. And you're going to make different ones if you haven't been there than if you have been there and you had experiences. So based on my experiences And each experience, when I select and collect those experiences and I put them in a category, I then make a generalization about Hanoi. The people are very friendly. The food is really, really good. The architecture is amazing because you have these old crumbling colonial buildings alongside these communist era buildings. And so these are my experiences of that city, but I'm not there right now. But I take with me a concept of that. I have an idea, a feeling of that city. And then when I go back, I'm going to take that concept with me. And then when I have more experiences, that concept's going to grow. The same exact thing happens with your identity. From the beginning, when you're born, when you don't know who you are, you don't have any experiences. And then you start having experiences and you get these influences from authority figures, your parents, your culture, your society, that influences those experiences. And then as you select and collect these experiences, especially the feedback you get about yourself, you go to school, you're told you're a good student, you're told you're a bad student, you're told you're a good kid, you're told you're a bad kid, and you take in all these experiences, you select and collect them, and you create a certain collection of experiences that reflect upon who you are. And when I say select and collect these experiences, what I'm really talking about is your beliefs, your generalizations that you're making about yourself. And so once you bring this all together, it comes together in one big generalization about who you are, the concept of you. Just like I have a concept of Hanoi or any other city you want to mention, you've experienced you your entire life, and you've heard feedback from people who experience you from outside of you. And so you bring all this information together and create a concept about who you are. The truth is, you will never know who you truly are. The whole idea of an identity is a concept. So it's impossible to truly know who you are. It's impossible for anyone else to truly know who you are. But given all this information, we create beliefs. And why do we create beliefs? We create beliefs because when we don't have actual concrete, tangible facts in front of us, we have to fill in the gaps somehow. So you could go into all sorts of things like, well, Damon, I am a person. I'm tangible. I'm right here. But then that would mean that you are only your body. And we know that that's not true because we got a lot going on in here. And the other thing is that every 7 years, you're a completely physically different person. And then you might gain weight, you might lose weight, you might grow a beard, you might shave your beard, you might grow long hair, you might cut your hair. So if you are your body, there comes a lot of problems with that idea when you talk about the kind of physical changes you can go through. So understand yourself in the sense of what you believe about yourself. That is the only truth about you will ever know. So if you want to define your personal identity, you're going to find that in what are the beliefs you make about yourself and how those beliefs come together to form the overall generalization or concept of you. Now, when we look at that big picture, that big idea of all that I just talked about, you can keep chunking this down into smaller and smaller structures. And I mentioned some of those. The experience is sort of the granule. That's the first piece of it. You have an experience. And an experience is a subjective thing. There's a beginning and there's an end. And then there's a middle. When we talk about life, you don't remember your beginning when you were born. Nobody does. And you couldn't possibly know anything about your end because you're still alive. So your experience has actually been nonstop. There hasn't been a beginning and an end. But in order for our minds to make sense of life, we create a beginning and then an end, and we call this an experience. So this is the very beginning when we start creating experiences. And this happens very early in life, probably around the age of 2 years old. And then we start bringing these experiences together and we start selecting and collecting them into these beliefs and generalizations. And some of these beliefs are beliefs about the world, and some of these beliefs are the beliefs about you. And then this is how this process continues to go. So without understanding this is where we get stuck in all the philosophy about life. And the more you can understand what I just explained, the more you start to explore the beliefs that you have about yourself, this starts to shine a light on them that your beliefs are not set about who you are. We tend to think of these as facts. Well, I'm just this way, and that's just how it is. Or the world is just this way and that's just how it is. But the truth is no, these are beliefs you've created, and beliefs are not facts. So therefore, you can actually change them. They are malleable. And you've believed many things in your life that you don't believe anymore. Why? Because you maybe based that belief on certain evidence and then later got contrary evidence that showed you that's not true. At one time, you might have believed in Santa Claus. Why? Because your parents told you there was a Santa Claus. And when you woke up on Christmas morning, you found presents under the tree. There was your evidence. So you thought, well, this must be true. This is just how it is. And then later, it gets revealed that, well, your parents put those presents there. Your parents told you that there was a Santa Claus. So what other experience you had but to believe that? So that should show you that your beliefs about yourself are not necessarily true. And you might get different evidence, or you might seek out different evidence to find out that something you believe about yourself is not true. And this is the really exciting thing. So for some people that feels anxious, that feels anxiety provoking, that, whoa, what if the things that I believe about myself are not true? And to me, at one time that scared me, but to me now, that's what's really exciting about life. And you can spend the rest of your life being curious about yourself and exploring yourself, exploring who you really are. And one way that we do that very well is by challenging yourself, by thinking about all those things that you want to do, especially the things that might scare you a little bit, and go for them anyway. What do you have to lose? The only thing you have to lose is maybe an idea or a belief you have about yourself. But in the process, you're probably going to strengthen other beliefs about yourself, and you become more who you want to be. First, get a sense of who you are. Be honest with yourself. What do you believe about yourself? And then once you have an understanding of that, then you realize there's so much that you don't know about yourself. So now you get to explore that. You get to explore who you are. And like I said, one way to do that is through challenging yourself, and not just challenging yourself over nothing. I'll give you an example. I love to travel. And travel can be a challenge sometimes. It costs money. I have kids, so I have to find childcare unless I take my kids with me, which presents a whole new challenge. So there's always challenges to that. But I feel like I discover more of myself every time I travel. And in some cases, I feel like I lose some of myself in the sense that who I thought I was, maybe I don't feel that way so much anymore. So define yourself, explore yourself, and then decide, well, who is it that you want to be? Who do you aspire to be? And I'm not saying it like aspiring to be like someone else. Don't do that. That's never going to be helpful for you. Comparing yourself to others will only bring you down. But knowing who you are now, who do you want to be more of in alignment with who you would like to be? And then you can spend lots of time as you explore who you are, creating more and more of who you want to be, selecting and collecting those experiences that build the beliefs that you want to believe about yourself, that are empowering rather than limiting. And this is a beautiful process that is very systematic, that has very predictable results, and you can do this for the rest of your life, making your life better, creating more of who you want to be so that you create more of the experience of life that you want to live. So now you have a better understanding of your personal identity and how you can explore that identity and how you can transform it. But what you don't know are the healthy elements of a healthy self-concept, or I should say the elements of a healthy self-concept. So what I've done is I created a free PDF that you can get immediate access to. There's a link down in the description and also in the pinned comment. It's the comment at the top. Just click that link and you'll get immediate access to the elements of a healthy self-concept. And this will give you, these are the guidelines of how to create a healthy personal identity. If you like this video, make sure you click the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, make sure you do that by hitting the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you'll be notified when new videos come out. If you know of a friend or a relative who you think would enjoy this video, make sure you share it with them. Take care.